What's up, everyone? It's Millennial Monk here. How you all doing out there? Hope you're all doing good. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas and a safe, happy holidays. Today's video topic is going to be the baby bust. Basically, at the beginning of the quote-unquote pandemic back in March, I remember seeing articles talking about there being a potential baby boom. With being more people staying at home, they thought they'd see an increase in babies, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. A lot of it has to do with the economic disruption, the cost of living going up, and more men going their own way. But of course, the mainstream media won't talk about that. So anyways, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. As we enter 2021 and 2022, I think we'll see a dramatic increase in the baby bust. There'll be less babies born, even more. And this has been something that they've been talking about a long time, with birth rates decreasing. And that's why I want to start off with this video, which was uploaded back in 2018. It says U.S. birth rate is lowest in 30 years, which was historically low. And I wanted to start by looking at some of the comments. It says, this is just a start. It's going to get much lower. And another one, someone saying MGTOW, claiming MGTOW is responsible for some of this, which I don't doubt it. But a lot of it has to do with how society treats men. Only 30 years, let's make it 100. MGTOW power, mofos. Thanks, feminism. This guy says, and this is a problem. Why? Exactly, it isn't. It's a wonderful thing. It's not fair to a child to raise him up in this crazy world. Too much hate. We are broke, duh. Can't feed myself and pay bills to heck. No, I don't have kids. I work 40 hours, sometimes more. MGTOW. 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 Okay, let's watch the video.
A government report out Thursday shows America's birth rate is the lowest it's been in 30 years. The downward trend will leave a smaller share of young workers paying into Social Security and Medicare. Here's Meg Oliver with more.
Do you worry about college already while you're still in the diaper phase?
We actually have started a college fund.
First-time mom Sharoni Earps left her job when her twin girls Riley and Alexa were born last year.
Did it make financial sense to hire a nanny?
It didn't, especially for twins. I mean, it would be more than my salary.
The rising cost of raising a family may be one reason fewer women are choosing motherhood. A new report from the CDC finds the U.S. birth rate has dropped to a 30-year low.
If you force women to choose between a job and between having children, some of them are going to choose to not have children.
And
There
now
were
those
about
same women don't even have
3.85
jobs.
million births in 2017, down 2% from the year
We've seen
before.
a lot more women
The rates
leaving the
fell
workforce
7%
lately.
for teens, with smaller decreases for women in their 20s and 30s, the prime childbearing years.
Women in their
Okay, so that's all I wanted to show about that video. And start off with this article. Here comes the COVID-19 baby bust. This was posted 11/24/2020 by Joe Pinsker. By now, the pandemic has disrupted Americans' daily lives for nearly as long as a baby typically spends in the womb. This means that many children conceived in mid-March are weeks away from joining us in this disorienting new world. But just as noticeable are the children who won't be joining us, the babies who would have been born were it not for the ongoing economic and public health crisis. These missing births, which could end up numbering in the hundreds of thousands in the U.S., will make up what's been called the COVID baby bust. And I don't like how they just assume that there is going to be people born. Like it's a conveyor belt an assembly line with new generations of workers and babies being born. There's a reason why this is happening. And a lot of it is a symptom of things that are being implemented by design. One would think that a baby bust would take at least 9 months to reveal itself, but traces of one seem to have already appeared. As Philip Cohen, a sociologist at University of Maryland, has noted, births started to decline in California and Florida during the summer. That'd be too soon, though, to reflect a drop in conceptions during the pandemic or a rise in abortions or miscarriages, which tend to happen earlier on in the pregnancy. 3 possible explanations, Cohen told me, are errors or lags in the state's data on births, large numbers of pregnant people moving during the pandemic and giving birth in another state, or a large, unexpected drop in births that was already going to happen regardless of pandemic. The first is probably incorrect. California and Florida's health departments told me that they weren't aware of any delays in reporting data. The second is possible, but a little hard to believe. And the third one, which I also agree with, is Cohen thinks the third is likeliest. It might actually be that we're already headed for a record drop in births this year. Is that not surprising? You've got all these things going on in the world, and you think people want to keep having kids. And they've already not wanted to have kids anyways. If that's the case, then birth rates in 2021 are probably going to be even more shockingly low. The baby bust isn't expected to begin in earnest until December, and it could take a bit longer than that. Sarah Hayford, a sociologist at Ohio State University, told me, if parents-to-be didn't adjust their plans in response to the pandemic immediately back in March, when its duration wasn't widely apparent. The resulting decline in births, whenever it kicks in, could be quite large. In June, the economists Melissa Kearney and Philip Levine projected that 300,000 to 500,000 fewer babies might be born in 2021 than there would have been otherwise. We see no reason to think that our estimate was too large at this point. Kearney told me 5 months after the analysis was published. In fact, given the ongoing stress for current parents associated with school closures, the effect might even be larger than what we predicted, and that's what I think it's going to be as well. So that's just a brief look at this article. Birth rate should, however, rebound to roughly pre-pandemic levels sometimes after the threat of a COVID-19 subsides. We'll see. I doubt it. Any rebound will probably unfold incrementally as different sectors of society recover, even for women or couples who will eventually make up for their lost conceptions. The catch-up will not happen all at once because the resolution of the crisis will be gradual. Like the pandemic itself, the upcoming baby bust likely won't end at a distinct moment in time, but rather little by little. So that's that article. And here's the definition of the baby bust. It's a marked decline in the birth rate. The United States is in the midst of a baby bust as birth rates fall in every age group of women except for one, women in their 40s, according to government statistics released this week. So if that's the case, women in their 40s, like the other video said, they're bucking the trend. I didn't show all that, but if you would have watched the rest of the video, there would have said that women in their 40s are bucking the trend by having babies. But that's past their prime fertility, so those kids are more at risk of developmental issues, which is bad. But of course, women want to have that safety net that society provides them by having a kid. So that's one of the reasons why they do that. It's an insurance for their survival. The baby bust isn't expected to begin in earnest until December. And I think that was the article that I just read off. I remember seeing the word earnest, so I think that's where that came from. Oh yeah, Joe Pinsker. Yep. So there's that. There's a lot of articles talking about this. Baby bust. Millennials' birth rate drop may signal historic shift. And this is that sociologist reference in the other article. This is his study. Philip N. Cohen from the University of Maryland. I'll get back to that here in a minute. Women are deciding not to have babies because of the pandemic, and that's bad for all of us. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Shelby Parker sits outside of her home with her husband, Ben, and daughter, Abby, in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, on October 3rd. Parker planned to get pregnant this year, but is contemplating not trying for a second child at all now due to the coronavirus pandemic. Let me check my time real quick. Oh my gosh, I'm already over 10 minutes. All right, let's try not to make this longer than 20 minutes. Shelby Parker planned to get pregnant this year. The timing seemed right. She was working as a middle school teacher in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, a job that provided benefits for her whole family. Her husband, who drives a truck for FedEx, had just gotten a promotion. Their 21-month-old daughter was nearly ready for preschool. Now Parker, who is 29, is contemplating not trying for a second child at all. The state deprived of tax revenues because of business closures resulting from the coronavirus slashed its budget and cut public school funding by $300 million. The school has warned teachers that there may be a round of layoffs before the end of this year. As the pandemic rages on, she and her husband worry that she could end up out of work. If that happens, they'll be left without health insurance. And I gotta say something about this is you already got one kid and you think you're entitled to having another one, it sounds like. But with the way things are, you got to understand that you probably won't be able to have that one. So you just got to change plans. The long-term impact of such delays could be staggering. The U.S. fertility rate is the lowest it has been since 1985. We've all seen also We are also a relatively elderly nation. By 2034, Americans over age 65 are expected to outnumber those under 18 for the first time in U.S. history. Already the country faces a severe dearth of workers able to drive the economy and care for our aging population. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of economic disruptions. And I would go as far as say it's all by design. It seems like that. Millennials, the 24 to 39-year-olds who are most likely to consider having a child right now, which I'm not, already had their life plans delayed because of the Great Recession. And that's unfortunate. Most of the people that I graduated with, they went off to college and now they've got a lot of student debt. I didn't go that route. Instead, I went into the workforce, got a high-paying job, working in the factory and stuff. And so a lot of people still are paying off that student debt and they can't make ends meet because they already can't find a job that pays high enough because all the jobs are gone. Well, not all the jobs are gone, but there's less of them available. And the ones that are available are kind of like lower paying or even gig economy type of jobs. They're achieving career milestones later, buying houses later, and having kids later than previous generations. And I used to have ideas of those career milestones, like having a kid, getting married. And then I woke up and saw just how stupid those things are. So stop worrying about getting married. Stop worrying about having kids, because I hate this idea that we're going to keep scrounging around for scraps, trying to make ends meet. It's ridiculous just to meet these, the American dream standards, which is bull crap anyways. Meyer says that if hundreds of thousands of millennial women choose to delay pregnancy even longer until the arrival of a vaccine, a downturn in cases in their area, or a return to normalcy, then we're looking at a fundamental and unprecedented change to our population. Not my problem. A lot of this is due to how society treats men and other things like feminism. And you can see there's a graph down here. I don't want to get too in depth with it. Have a baby or have a career. A lot of women want to have a career and have a baby. But now that the jobs are drying up and there's so much other things going on, they don't want to work anymore. They want to go back to being housewives. There's been a high increase of women leaving the workforce. And maybe I'll actually talk about that in another video, but I've seen a lot of articles about that, how women are being, quote-unquote, disproportionately affected by the, quote-unquote, pandemic. And this article by the Los Angeles Times says, less sex, more insecurity, a pandemic baby bust is coming. Recreational sex is a popular form of leisure that has been redefined by the COVID-19 pandemic. So begins a doleful April 23rd study in the journal Leisure Sciences. Just to clear up any confusion, redefinition here means decline. Of the 1,559 adults who were asked about their pandemic-era sex lives, nearly half said the once popular form of leisure had lost its luster for them. This is admittedly just one data point. Still, any diminishment of libidos is a harbinger of something perilous. It speaks of the decline of a nation. In numbers, yes, but also physically, economically, and morally. We've seen this coming for a long time now. I'm going to read this last two paragraphs, and then I'm going to call this, we'll be done with this article. The study was conducted in April. If you think the loosening of the coronavirus shutdown has rekindled desire, woe betide. This week, experts advise the libidinous to wear a mask, avoid kissing, and refrain from facing one another during sex. The Mayo Clinic is emphatic that the safest sex these days is masturbation. Adding helpfully, you might also consider engaging in sexual activity with partners via text, photos, or video. Ideally, using an encrypted platform to provide privacy protection. Right, what a year. Nothing says romance like surgical masks, no eye contact, and encrypted digital platforms. And the people who believe in all this follow it. So that's their own fault. How big could COVID-19 baby bust be? Again, we already saw those numbers earlier. 300,000, 500,000 fewer births next year. And that's the same person that was interviewed in the other one. A COVID-19 baby boom may be happening among certain Houston areas, according to healthcare experts. So I wanted to find one that was different to the other ones, and this one apparently says that there's a baby boom in Houston, Texas. Back in March, people were joking that babies born at the end of the year would have names like Pandemica or Cova, but as it turns out, a COVID-19 baby boom could be a real thing in some areas. One Houston mom didn't plan to have another baby for 3 years, then the pandemic hit. Let me check my time. Oh, I'm almost at 20. You know, we are not ready for a baby, but we got a puppy. We got a puppy, guys. We got a puppy on Sunday. I had some speculation, and I took a pregnancy test on Wednesday. Expecting mom Angela Cheryl said, setting a family of 4 will now be a family of 6. It's been nerve-wracking, being pregnant during a pandemic, Cheryl said. Cheryl is a stay-at-home mom and already has her hands full with her 2 boys. At the pandemic hit, her husband was laid off for 6 weeks, and now they're awaiting the arrival of their first girl in January. Numbers from our clinic do show that there are an increased number of pregnant women compared to our numbers this time last year, said OBGYN Dr. Megan Pollister from Kelsey Seibold. Dr. Pollister says the number from her clinic shows there were about 3,500 pregnant women visiting the clinic at this time in 2019. This year they've seen 4,700. So that's 1,200 more. So that's a good amount, but that doesn't take into account 2021. I'm sure we will be seeing more numbers, she said. Having her own baby during the pandemic, Pallister said 50% of pregnancies in the U.S. are unplanned. But some people are choosing to get pregnant during the pandemic, even with the unknown. So there you have it. There's another article out here saying in certain areas they're seeing an uptick in pregnancies or kids being born. Some experts believe the COVID-19 baby boom won't be widespread. In some areas, job loss and increased anxiety could decrease pregnancies. And I think that's what you'll see across the board more so than an increase in babies. I think overall, the other articles about a baby bust are more true and more telling of what's going on in society. 500,000 fewer children. All right, so I decided to cut this video short. I was going to talk about a little bit more, but I think we get the point. 2021, it looks like there's going to be a continued decrease in the birth rate. And a lot of it is due to economic disruptions, a lot of people falling on hard times. And it's all by design. I would encourage anyone listening to go look up definition of pandemic being changed by the WHO 10 years ago during the swine flu epidemic. Yes, they changed the definition of a pandemic, so today's standard of a pandemic is less severe compared to the old standard, which is why they consider this a pandemic. But I'll save that topic for another video. In the next video, I plan on talking about how women are leaving the workforce. And so this is one that I'm going to talk about. Just shows women are leaving the workforce. That is the case. And it'll continue to change society, which is ever changing. So with that being said, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you all stay safe. Hope you all stay healthy. It's been good, gentlemen. Until next time, I'm Millennial Monk, and I'm out.